The coffee shop on 5th Street was busy that Tuesday morning. People stood in line, checking their phones and talking about normal things like work and weather. Nobody was looking at the sky. Nobody saw the first ship appear. Commander Zeke Thon watched the planet from his command deck. Earth looked small and blue from space. The humans living on it had no idea what was coming. His fleet of crystal ships hung in the darkness, invisible to human eyes. They had been planning this invasion for months. "Sir, all ships are in position," his officer reported. The alien's voice sounded like metal scraping stone. "Good. Begin Phase 1. Show ourselves to the humans. Let them see what they are facing." The first person to notice was a bus driver named Carl Martinez. He was driving his morning route when a shadow fell across the street. He looked up through his windshield and saw something impossible. A ship the size of a shopping mall was floating above the city. It looked like it was made of purple glass. Carl pulled over and stepped out of his bus. Other drivers were doing the same thing. People got out of their cars and stood in the street, looking up at the massive ship. "Holy cow," Carl said to nobody. In particular, "That's definitely not normal." A woman named Betty Cole was walking her dog when the ship appeared. Her little terrier started barking at the sky. Betty took out her phone and started recording. "Well, this is interesting," she said to her camera. "Either someone is making a really expensive movie, or we just got visitors from space." She turned a phone to show her dog. "Rex here doesn't seem to like them much." The video was online within minutes. People across the city started sharing it. More ships appeared over other cities around the world. London, Tokyo, Sydney, Mexico City. Everywhere humans looked up, they saw the same thing. Giant crystal ships hanging in the sky like strange decorations. In Washington, President Ben Harris was eating breakfast when his phone started ringing. Then his other phone rang. Then an aide burst into his private dining room. "Sir, we have a situation. You need to come to the Situation Room right now." 5 minutes later, Ben was staring at screens showing the alien ships. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They appeared over every major city on Earth at exactly the same time. "How big are they?" Ben asked. General Ruth Adams checked her reports. "The smallest ones are about the size of a football stadium. The biggest ones are, well, they're really big, sir." Dr. Paul Kim, the head of NASA, was studying the energy. "Readings. Mr. President, these ships are using technology we don't understand. They're not following any known laws of physics. They're just hanging there with no visible means of support." "Have they tried to communicate?" "Not yet, sir. They're just watching us." Back on the street, more people were gathering. The initial shock was wearing off, and humans were doing what humans always do when faced with something new. They were getting curious. A teenager named Mike Chun was live streaming from Times Square. Thousands of people were watching his feed as he pointed his phone at the ship hanging over Manhattan. "So yeah, aliens are here," he said casually. "This is probably the most interesting Tuesday ever. The ship is just sitting there. It's not doing anything threatening. Maybe they're tourists?" His chat was exploding with comments. People were making jokes, asking questions, and sharing theories about what the aliens wanted. "Someone in the chat wants to know if I think they come in peace," Mike read. "I don't know, but they haven't shot anything yet, so that's probably a good sign." Commander Zekthon was watching human communications with growing confusion. His species had invaded dozens of worlds. Usually, the first reaction was panic. People would run screaming, governments would declare emergency states, and armies would mobilize for hopeless last stands. But humans were not panicking. They were taking pictures. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "human social media activity has increased by 4,000%. They are sharing images of our ships and creating what they call content about our arrival. Show me this content. The screen filled with human posts. Someone had made a picture of his ship with words that said, "Honey, I think the neighbors are here." Another showed a cartoon human waving at a spaceship with the text, "Finally, someone to split the electric bill with." Zekthan did not understand humor. His species had no concept of making light of serious situations. Why are they not afraid? Unknown, sir. Some appear to be planning welcome parties. This was not in any invasion manual Zekthan had ever read. He decided to move to the next phase ahead of schedule. At exactly noon, every screen on Earth showed the same thing. Zekthan's alien face appeared on televisions, phones, computers, and digital billboards everywhere. His voice, translated into every human language, delivered the same message to the entire planet. People of Earth, I am Commander Zekthan of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen for conquest. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. If you refuse, your cities will be destroyed and your people will become slaves. Do not try to fight us. Your weapons cannot hurt our ships. Your armies cannot stop our soldiers. Give up now, and some of you will be allowed to live. The message ended. The screens went back to normal. For exactly 10 seconds, the world was quiet. Then the internet went crazy. Within an hour, there were thousands of memes about Commander Zekthan. Someone had turned his serious invasion speech into a song. Others were making parody videos where they responded to his demands with jokes and silly faces. One video showed a man in his garage, looking directly into his camera. "Dear Commander Zekthan," he said seriously, "thank you for your invasion notice. Unfortunately, I already have plans this weekend. Could you reschedule for sometime next month? Also, do you guys validate perking?" The video got 1 million views. In the first hour, President Harris was getting reports from around the world. "Sir, there's no mass panic. People are going to work, sending their kids to school, and acting like this is just another news story. Some cities are actually seeing increased tourism as people want to get closer to the ships. That's not what I expected," Ben admitted. "Sir," General Adams said, "we're seeing something unusual. Instead of running away from the ships, people are gathering under them. They're having picnics, playing music, and treating this like a block party." Dr. Kim looked up from his computer. The psychological profile is fascinating. Humans appear to be treating the invasion as a challenge to overcome rather than a disaster to flee from. They're adapting to the presence of the ships and incorporating them into their daily routines. Back in Times Square, Mike was still live streaming. His viewer count had reached 10 million people from around the world. "So we've got about 71 hours left," he said to his audience. "I'm thinking of ordering pizza and having an alien countdown party. Who wants to join me?" The responses were overwhelmingly positive. People were already making plans to gather under the ships, bring food, and turn the invasion deadline into a global celebration. Commander Zekthan watched the human responses with something approaching panic. His invasion was supposed to break human morale and force quick surrender. Instead, humans were throwing parties and making jokes about his ultimatum. "Sir," his officer reported, "we're detecting massive organizational activity among the humans. But it's not military. They appear to be planning festivals, parties, and what they call alien appreciation events. This is not how invasions work." Zekthan muttered. As the first day passed, it became clear that humanity's response was completely outside the normal parameters for planetary conquest. Instead of fear and desperation, humans were showing curiosity and creativity. Instead of preparing for defeat, they were preparing to show their uninvited guests exactly what made humanity special. The countdown had begun, but nobody was sure who would be more surprised when it ended. The 72 hours ended on a Friday morning. Commander Zeekthon had waited long enough. The humans had not surrendered. They had not even tried to negotiate. Instead, they had spent 3 days having parties under his ships and making jokes. About his invasion? "Begin the attack," he ordered. The crystal ships came alive with deadly energy. Beams of pure light shot down from the sky, cutting through buildings and melting steel. The weapons were designed to cause terror and destruction. They carved smoking lines through city blocks and left glowing holes in the streets. But when the light faded and the smoke cleared, something was wrong. The streets were empty. No bodies, no screaming people, no crowds running in panic. The cities looked like everyone had simply vanished. Where did they go? Zeekthon demanded, his scanning. Officer checked the readings 3 times. "Sir, life signs indicate they are still present, but they have moved underground, into subway tunnels, basement levels, and sewer systems. The entire human population appears to have disappeared into their own infrastructure. In the tunnels, under New York City, Colonel Sam Brooks was coordinating the resistance from what used to be a subway station. The platform was now filled with civilians who had volunteered to fight. There were teachers, shop owners, students, and mechanics. All of them had decided that alien invasion was not acceptable in their city. "Remember," Sam said into his radio, "these aliens expect us to fight like a regular army. Big battles, clear lines, organized retreats. We're not going to do that. We're going to fight like we live in this city." The first alien landing craft touched down in Central Park. The soldiers that came out were 8 feet tall and covered in armor that looked like metal scales. They had 4 arms, glowing red eyes, and weapons that could cut through concrete. They also had shields that could stop any human bullet. They marched into the empty city, their heavy boots echoing off the buildings. Everything was silent. No movement. No sound except their own footsteps. The first attack came from above. A manhole cover flew up into the air, and an alien soldier fell into the hole. Before he could react, he was surrounded by humans with improvised weapons. They used fire extinguishers to blind him, threw nets over his arms, and hit weak spots in his armor with hammers and crowbars. The alien fought back, but he was trained for open warfare, not street fighting in dark tunnels. Within minutes, he was unconscious, and the humans had taken his weapon and armor. "One down," Sam reported. "Lisa, you're up." 3 blocks away, Lisa Rogers was waiting in her auto repair shop. She was a mechanic who had spent 20 years fixing cars, trucks, and anything else with an engine. When the humans brought her the alien weapon, she looked at it the same way she looked at a broken transmission. "Interesting design," she said, taking it apart with her tools. "Power source here, energy conduit here, and this looks like a targeting system." Her helpers were a mix of mechanics, engineers, and curious neighbors who had stayed to help. Lisa had never seen alien technology before, but she treated it like any other machine that needed to be understood. "Hand me that motorcycle battery," she said, "and some electrical tape." 2 hours later, she had created something impossible. She had connected the alien weapon to a human motorcycle battery, wrapped the connections in electrical tape, and mounted the whole thing on a shopping cart for mobility. "This is completely against the laws of physics," said Dr. Janet Moore, a science professor who had joined the resistance. "The energy patterns are incompatible. This shouldn't work." "Lady, my motorcycle shouldn't work either, but it's been running for 15 years, Lisa replied. She aimed the weapon at a concrete block and pulled the trigger. The block turned to dust instantly. "Seems to work fine to me." The weapon was ugly, improvised, and held together with tape and determination. It violated several scientific principles. But it worked, and that was all that mattered to the humans. Word spread through the underground network. Humans were not just fighting the aliens. They were stealing their technology and making it work with human engineering. They were doing it fast, doing it cheap, and doing it with whatever materials they could find. The aliens were completely unprepared for this approach. Their invasion manuals assumed that primitive species would be unable to use advanced technology. But humans were treating their weapons like broken appliances that needed fixing. The second major battle happened in the subway tunnels under the city. A squad of alien soldiers had tracked the humans underground, expecting to find them hiding in fear. Instead, they found themselves in a maze of tunnels that the humans knew better than their own homes. The aliens had maps of the subway system, but the maps did not show the abandoned sections, the maintenance tunnels, or the areas that had been closed for construction. Humans had been using these tunnels for transportation and storage for over 100 years. "Enemy squad in Section 12, whispered Tony Kim, a college student who was watching from a ventilation shaft. 8 soldiers, heavy weapons, moving toward the main platform. The humans did not attack the aliens directly. Instead, they used the city itself as a weapon. They led the soldiers into dead ends, cut the power to make the tunnels dark, and used the echo of the tunnels to confuse their sense of direction. When the aliens finally realized they were lost, they found themselves in a large chamber that had been prepared for them. The humans had set up mirrors, strobe lights, and speakers throughout the space. When the aliens entered, the room exploded with flashing lights and loud music. The sound bounced off the walls in a chaos of noise and color. The aliens were creatures of order and precision. The chaos of strobing lights and pounding music overwhelmed their senses. They stumbled around, unable to coordinate or communicate, while humans in protective gear moved through the confusion like they owned the place. When the music stopped, all 8 aliens were unconscious, and the humans had collected 8 more weapons and a lot of useful armor. "This is not warfare," Commander Zeekthan said, watching the reports from his ship. "This is chaos." "Sir," his intelligence officer replied, "the humans appear to be using unconventional tactics. They are using their entertainment technology as weapons. They are using their transportation systems as traps. They are modifying our equipment with their primitive tools." Zeekthan had conquered 12 worlds with advanced armies and organized governments. But he had never faced a species that treated war like a community, project to be solved with creativity and teamwork. The third day brought the biggest surprise yet. A group of humans had managed to capture an entire alien landing craft. They had not done it with superior weapons or military strategy. They had done it with pizza. The aliens had landed their ship in a parking lot to set up a base. The humans noticed that the aliens worked in shifts, with some guarding the ship while others went on patrol. So they sent in Tony's pizza truck, Doc Tony. Martinez had been running his food truck for 8 years. He knew how to get people's attention and make them curious. He parked just outside the alien perimeter and started cooking. The smell of pizza, burgers, and fresh bread filled the air. The aliens had never experienced anything like it. Despite their military training, they were curious creatures. One by one, they came closer to investigate. "What is this substance?" the alien commander asked, trying to scan the food with his equipment. "Pizza," Tony said like it was obvious. "You guys look hungry. Been working hard all day, right?" The aliens were not supposed to eat local food, but they had been eating nothing but their standard rations for days. The smell was incredible, and they were genuinely interested in human culture. "Is it safe for consumption?" one asked. "Safe? This is New York pizza. Best food in the universe," Tony said with complete confidence, while the aliens were distracted. By the food, other humans were quietly surrounding their ship. They used the aliens' curiosity against them. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, they were surrounded by humans with improvised weapons and their ship was under human control. "We're not going to hurt you," Colonel Brooks told the captured aliens. "But you need to understand something. This is our home. We live here, and we're not leaving." The aliens looked at each other in confusion. They had expected humans to fight with military honor, surrender with dignity, or at least run away in terror. Instead, they had been defeated by food and friendly conversation. "You are not warriors," one of them said. "No," Sam replied. "We're neighbors. And neighbors take care of each other." By the end of the first week, everything had changed. The aliens were no longer fighting a primitive species that would surrender quickly. They were fighting a species that refused to follow the rules of war, that turned every disadvantage into an advantage, and that treated advanced alien technology like spare parts for home improvement projects. Commander Zeethan stared at his reports, trying to understand what had gone wrong. His forces had better technology, more soldiers, and centuries of military experience. But they were losing to a species that fought with tape, creativity, and pizza. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a message from the human leadership." President Harris appeared on the screen. He was sitting in what looked like a subway station, surrounded by humans of all ages and backgrounds. Soldiers, civilians, children, and elderly people. All of them looked deet. The meeting between President Harris and Commander Zeethan happened in Bryant Park. It was a strange sight. Alien soldiers stood next to human police officers. Both groups watched each other with curiosity instead of hostility. "Your species fights in ways that make no logical sense," Zeethan said. His voice carried confusion and frustration. "You use entertainment devices as weapons. You turn food into strategy. You modify our advanced technology with primitive tools." Harris smiled slightly. "That's because we don't see this as a traditional war. We see it as a problem that needs solving, and humans are very good at solving problems in unexpected ways." What Zeethan did not know was that Dr. Sarah Kim had been studying his species for weeks. She was a psychologist who studied how different minds work. She had discovered something very important about the aliens. "They think like computers," she explained to the resistance leaders in their underground meeting room. "Everything follows rules and patterns. Their whole society is built on order and hierarchy. Everyone has a specific role. Everyone follows commands, and everyone does exactly what they are programmed to do." She pointed to charts showing alien behavior patterns. "They literally cannot understand a species that makes decisions based on individual choice and creativity. It's like they've never encountered free will before." This discovery was about to change everything. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A group of computer experts, led by 17-year-old Kevin Park, had been trying to hack into the alien communication system. They were not trying to steal military secrets or shut down weapons. They had a completely different plan. "We're going to upload our entire internet," Kevin announced to his team of hackers and programmers. "The whole internet?" asked his partner, a computer science student named Amy Liu. "Everything. Every video, every social media post, every website, every meme, every song, every movie. We're going to show them what humanity really is." The plan sounded crazy, but it worked. Using captured alien equipment and some creative programming, they managed to connect to the alien network. Within hours, decades of human culture were flooding into alien computers across the entire fleet. The effect was immediate and shocking. Alien soldiers who had been perfectly disciplined began acting strangely. They started asking questions instead of just following orders. They began to disagree with their commanders. Some even started to laugh, which was something their species had never done before. "Sir," an alien soldier reported to his commander, "I have been studying human cultural materials, and I believe we may be making an error in our approach. Explain, the commander said. Humans create art for beauty alone. They make music for pleasure. They tell stories to share ideas. They show kindness to creatures that cannot help them. Are we certain we should destroy all of this? This was the first time in alien history that a soldier had questioned a direct order. Their society had no concept of individual thought or creative expression. But exposure to human culture was changing that. Fundamental programming. The cultural virus spread quickly through the alien fleet. Soldiers began watching human movies, listening to human music, and reading human books. They discovered concepts that had no translation in their language. Things like humor, love, friendship, and personal freedom. Commander Zeke then tried to stop the spread of human culture, but it was too late. The information had reached too many minds too quickly. His own officers were beginning to question the invasion. Sir, his second-in-command said during a strategy meeting, perhaps we should reconsider our methods. These humans may have more value as partners than as slaves. Zeke's eyes glowed with anger. You have been contaminated by their chaos. Report to the medical unit for mental reconditioning. But the medical unit could not fix what was happening. The aliens were experiencing something their species had never known. They were learning to think for themselves. The first alien defection happened 4 days later. A soldier named Tekvar walked into a human resistance base carrying a box of alien technology and a human tablet showing cat videos. I no longer wish to participate in this conflict, he said in broken English. I wish to understand these small furry creatures that humans find entertaining. Captain Joe Martinez, a former Marine, was assigned to handle the defector. He had expected to question a dangerous enemy. Instead, he found himself explaining why humans enjoyed watching cute animal videos. They're just ... Nice to look at, Joe said, feeling somewhat ridiculous. They make people feel happy. Happy, Tekvar repeated the word like he was learning. A foreign language. This emotion is considered valuable by humans? Very valuable, Joe confirmed. Within days, Tekvar had become the first member of a combined human-alien unit. He brought advanced alien technology together with human tactics, creating a fighting force that was incredibly effective against traditional alien soldiers. The unit combined human creativity with alien precision. They used alien weapons, but employed them in ways no alien had ever imagined. They mixed alien shields with human armor, creating protection that was both advanced and practical. Most importantly, they fought with something the aliens had never experienced. They fought to protect something they cared about, rather than simply following programming. This is my chosen home now, Tekvar explained to other aliens through broadcasts. These humans are my chosen companions. I will fight to defend them. The concept of chosen relationships was revolutionary to the aliens. They understood loyalty to their empire and obedience to their superiors, but they had never experienced bonds between individuals who chose to care about each other. More aliens began to defect. Each one brought new technology and fresh perspectives. But they also brought something more valuable. They brought questions about their own society and way of life. Why do we destroy other civilizations? Asked an alien engineer named Vexara. Why do we not learn from them instead? Because that is not our way, Commander Zekthan replied, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. Perhaps our way requires improvement, she said quietly. It was a sentence that would have been impossible for any alien to speak just weeks before. But exposure to human culture had given them new words, new concepts, and new ways of understanding existence. The turning point came when the human hackers made their biggest discovery. They found that the alien empire was not as solid as it appeared. There were hundreds of worlds under alien control, and many of them were unhappy with the constant warfare and rigid social control. We can broadcast to all of them, Kevin explained. To President Harris. We can show them the same things we showed the soldiers here. We can give them the same choice to think for themselves. The broadcast went out across space to every world in the alien empire. It was not a message of war or resistance. It was a message of possibility and hope. The transmission showed Earth as it really was. Chaotic, but beautiful. Diverse, but unified. Creative and constantly changing. It showed humans working together, solving problems, creating art, and caring for each other. It showed a species that had turned a crisis into an opportunity for growth and connection. The response was immediate and powerful. Worlds across the alien empire began to question their government. Some declared independence from the empire. Others demanded changes and reforms. A few even asked for help in creating their own versions of human democracy and freedom. What have you done to my empire? Commander Zeekthon demanded in another meeting with President Harris. We've given them information, Harris replied calmly. We've shown them that there are other ways to live. The choice of what to do with that information is theirs alone. The alien empire was falling apart, but not from military defeat. It was dissolving because its own people were demanding the right to choose their own futures and express their own thoughts. Back on Earth, the conflict had transformed into something completely different. It was no longer humans fighting aliens. It was a cooperation between species, working together to solve problems that affected everyone. Human engineers worked with alien scientists to create new technologies that neither species could have developed. Alone, human artists collaborated with alien thinkers to create new forms of beauty and expression. Human teachers helped alien defectors learn about concepts like personal choice and individual responsibility. We're not defeating them, Doctor, Kim observed during a strategy meeting. We're not even fighting them anymore. We're educating them. Teaching them what? Asked General Adams. How to be individuals, how to make their own choices, how to create rather than just follow instructions. The lesson was spreading beyond Earth. Across the galaxy, the rigid structure of the alien empire was being replaced by something new. A collection of worlds that were learning to govern themselves, express themselves, and work together through choice rather than force. It was the most successful peaceful revolution in galactic history. It had been won not with weapons or armies, but with memes, music, movies, and the simple human belief that every thinking being deserved the right to choose their own path in life. Commander Zeekthon stood on his command bridge, watching his empire crumble through peaceful rebellion. But for the first time in his long existence, he found himself wondering if that might actually be a positive development. The humans had accomplished the impossible. They had defeat. A message came from deep space, transmitted on frequencies that could travel between stars. Supreme Emperor Craig Thule of the Central Command had been watching the reports from Earth with growing rage. Commander Zeekthon, the Emperor's voice, was like ice cracking. You have failed completely. What should have been a simple conquest has become a disaster. Half my empire is in rebellion, and my own soldiers are abandoning their posts to join the humans. Zeekthon stood in his command center, but his posture had changed over the weeks. Fighting humans had taught him to think differently. He had learned to question orders, and he did not like what he was questioning. Emperor, perhaps we should consider peaceful negotiation. The humans are not evil beings. They are simply different from us. They have shown us new possibilities that we never silence. Craig Thule's image filled the screen. He was enormous compared to other aliens, with battle scars across his armored body and eyes that burned with cold hatred. You have been infected by their disorder. You are no longer capable of proper command. Sir, I must object to, you will do nothing. The destruction fleet is already traveling to your location. Since you cannot conquer this planet, we will simply eliminate it. Every human will die. Every trace of their culture will be erased. And the galaxy will remember what happens to those who resist the central command. The transmission ended, leaving Zeekman staring at an empty screen. The destruction fleet was the Empire's final solution. A collection of ships designed to destroy all life on a planet. It had been used only twice in alien history, and both times it had left behind dead worlds as examples to others. Zeekman had 36 hours before the fleet arrived. For the first time in his existence, he had to make a decision that was not based on orders from above. He had to decide what was morally correct. On Earth, news of the approaching destruction fleet created a response that surprised everyone. Instead of panic or despair, it created unity and determination. They want to destroy us because we're different, President Harris said in a broadcast to the entire world. They want to erase our culture because it challenges their control. But we're not going to let that happen. The plan that developed was typically human. It was ambitious, probably impossible, and based on turning their greatest weakness into their most powerful strength. Dr. Rachel Torres, a brilliant scientist who had been working with captured alien technology, stood before a room full of researchers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens who had become experts in human-alien cooperation. "We're going to build a shield," she announced. "Not just around one city or one nation, but around the entire planet." "That's impossible," said Dr. Williams, a physics professor. "We don't have sufficient power sources. We lack the necessary technology, and we don't have enough time." "We don't have their traditional technology," Rachel corrected, "but we have something more powerful. We have their technology combined with human innovation. We're going to build a shield that shouldn't work according to their science, using methods that violate known physics, powered by sources that make no logical sense." The plan involved using Earth's own magnetic field as a power source. By placing modified alien generators at specific locations around the planet, they could create a network that would amplify the planet's natural protective forces. "It's like turning the whole planet into one giant battery," explained Lisa, who had become the world's leading expert in combining human and alien technology. "The magnetic field already exists. We just need to connect to it and boost its power." The project required cooperation on a scale never before attempted in human history. Every nation on Earth contributed resources, knowledge, and people. Alien defectors worked side by side with human engineers. Former enemies became partners in a desperate race against time. But the most crucial part of the plan was not the technology. It was the people themselves. "The shield will only function if the entire planet is connected," Rachel explained. "Not just the machines, but every human consciousness. We need every person on Earth to be part of the network." They called it the Global Unity Protocol. Every person on Earth would need to connect to the network simultaneously, adding their own mental energy to the planet's defense. It was based on the recent discovery that human consciousness could actually influence quantum energy fields. This discovery had been made while studying how human creativity affected alien technology in impossible ways. "You're asking 8 billion people to focus on the same goal at the same time," General Adams said. "That's never been accomplished before." "No," Harris replied. "We're asking 8 billion people to choose the same future at the same time. That's completely different." The message went out across the planet through every possible channel: television, radio, internet, social media, and word of mouth. Every human on Earth learned about the Global Unity Protocol. They had less than 8 hours to prepare. Meanwhile, Commander Zeekman faced his own impossible choice. His orders were clear. He was supposed to assist the destruction fleet in eliminating Earth. But his experience with humans had fundamentally changed him. He had learned to value individual choice, creativity, and the bonds between beings who chose to care about each other. "Sir," his officer approached carefully, "the crew is asking questions. Many have been working with human defectors. They do not want to participate in planetary destruction." Zeke then looked around his command center. Half his crew were now aliens who had embraced human concepts of individual freedom. The other half were traditional aliens who were struggling with ideas they had never encountered before. "What do you believe we should do?" he asked. It was the first time an alien commander had ever asked his crew for their opinions. The question itself was revolutionary in their culture. "We should help the humans," his communications officer said quietly. "They have shown us that there are better ways to exist. We should protect that knowledge, even if it means defying the Emperor, especially if it means defying the Emperor." The decision was made. When the destruction fleet arrived, they would find Earth defended not only by humans, but by aliens who had chosen to stand with them. The fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system exactly on schedule. 15 massive ships, each capable of destroying a continent, began their approach toward Earth. Their weapons were designed to burn away atmospheres, boil oceans, and crack the planet's surface. Supreme Emperor Krikthul commanded the fleet. Personally, he wanted to watch the humans die and see their chaotic culture finally silenced forever. "Sir," his scanning officer reported, "we are detecting unusual energy patterns from the planet. They appear to be constructing some kind of defensive network." Krikthul made a sound like breaking metal that passed for laughter among his species. "Impossible. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Whatever they are building cannot stop us." On Earth, the global unity protocol was beginning. 8 billion people across the planet stopped their normal activities and focused on a single thought: the determination to survive, to protect their world, and to continue being human. The effect was immediate and visible. The planet's magnetic field began to fluctuate in patterns that had never been observed before. The alien generators that had been placed around the globe started to resonate with energies that should not exist according to known science. "It's working," Rachel reported from the central control station. "The network is forming. The connections are holding. But we need more people connected." Around the world, humans were joining the network. In New York, Mike was live streaming the event to millions of viewers worldwide. In Tokyo, entire families held hands and focused on protecting their planet. In London, strangers worked together in the streets. In every city, every town, every remote village, humans were choosing to be part of something larger than themselves. The most surprising contribution came from the alien defectors. Aliens who had learned about human culture were adding their own mental energy to the network. Their ordered, logical thinking combined with human creativity to create something entirely new. "The energy readings are beyond our instruments," Dr. Williams reported. "This should not be possible according to any known science. The energy patterns are completely unprecedented." "That's because it's not just science," Dr. Kim explained. "It's consciousness itself. It's the power of billions of minds working together toward a common goal." The shield began to form around Earth. It was not visible to normal sight, but it could be detected by sensors. It was a barrier made of energy, thought, and pure determination. Supreme Emperor Krikthul saw it forming and felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. "What is that phenomenon?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. The energy readings suggest some kind of planetary defense system, but the power source cannot be identified or classified. Fire the primary weapons. Test their defenses immediately." The destruction fleet unleashed a barrage that could have vaporized a small moon. The beams of pure destruction struck Earth's atmosphere and met the shield. The shield held firm. "Impossible," Krikthul whispered. On Earth, people felt the attack like a physical impact shared among all of them. The shield absorbed the massive energy and distributed it across the entire planet. 8 billion people shared the force, making it manageable for everyone. They're testing our defenses. 6 months after the failed destruction attempt, Earth had become something entirely new. The planet still looked human, but now it was much more than that. Alien ships worked alongside human aircraft in the skies above every city. Advanced alien technology had been combined with human engineering to create innovations that neither species could have achieved working alone. In New York, the United Nations building had been expanded to house the new Galactic Council of Free Worlds. Representatives from over 60 planets gathered there regularly to discuss trade agreements, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense. What had begun as an invasion had become the foundation for the largest peaceful alliance in known galactic history. President Harris stood in his office, looking out at the city where humans and aliens worked side by side every day. The integration had not been perfect. There were still cultural misunderstandings and technical challenges to overcome, but it was working better than anyone had dared to hope. Mr. President, his assistant announced, Supreme Emperor Krikthul is here for the final treaty negotiations. The title was no longer accurate. Krikthul was no longer the absolute ruler of an empire. He was the elected representative of the former Central Command worlds, chosen through free elections that he himself had helped establish. Learning democracy had been difficult for someone who had ruled with absolute power for centuries, but he had embraced the process with surprising enthusiasm. Ben, Krikthul said as he entered the office. He had learned to use human names and customs, though his deep voice still made every word sound incredibly formal. I have the final reports from the outer systems. I hope it's good news? Excellent news. The last 5 worlds have voted to join our alliance. That brings our total to 63 planets, now part of the Free Worlds Council. Harris smiled broadly. Not bad for something that started as an invasion attempt. The 2 leaders walked to the large window and looked out at the busy city below. Human children played in parks alongside young aliens who were learning about games, laughter, and friendship. Former soldiers from both species worked together on construction projects, building homes and schools for the growing population of immigrants from worlds across the galaxy. I must ask you something that puzzles. Krikthul said thoughtfully. How did you know it would succeed? The consciousness network, the planetary shield, the cultural bridge between our minds. How did you know that exposing us to human thoughts would change us rather than destroy us? Harris considered the question carefully. Honestly, we had no way of knowing for certain. It was a massive gamble. But we've learned something important about intelligent life over the years. Consciousness wants to be free. Given the real choice, most thinking beings prefer freedom over slavery, creativity over rigid conformity, cooperation over endless conquest. And if your theory had been incorrect, then we would have died as humans. Chaotic, creative, stubborn, and free until the very end. Krikthul's facial features shifted in what humans had learned was the alien equivalent of a warm smile. I am grateful that your theory proved correct. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication from the orbital space stations. Mike, the teenager who had live-streamed the first day of the invasion, was now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. His casual style and natural curiosity had made him unexpectedly effective at interspecies diplomacy. President Harris, we've got new visitors, Mike announced from his station high above Earth. 4 ships from something called the Dominion Empire. They want to establish what they call proper diplomatic relations. More aliens? Harris asked with interest. Yep, word is spreading really fast across the galaxy about what we've built. Here, turns out a lot of different species are very interested in this whole freedom and voluntary cooperation concept we've got going. Harris looked at Craigthul with amusement. Are you ready to welcome more new neighbors to our community? With humans as partners and teachers, I believe we can handle absolutely anything the galaxy sends our way. The final celebration took place in Central Park, at the exact spot where the first meeting between Harris and Ziegfeld had occurred many months earlier. Now it was the site for the signing of the Galactic Charter of Free Worlds, a document that would establish the basic principles of their new alliance for generations to come. Commander Ziegfeld, now Admiral of the Integrated Human-Alien Defense Fleet, stood with his mixed crew as the historic charter was officially signed. The document guaranteed the fundamental right of every world to complete self-determination, the free exchange of ideas and cultural knowledge, and mutual defense against any form of aggression. But the most important section was the one that Mike had insisted on including in the final draft. Every intelligent being in this galaxy has the absolute right to choose their own path in life, to express their own thoughts freely, and to contribute their unique perspective to the galactic community without fear or interference. As the formal ceremony concluded, Dr. Kim addressed the assembled representatives from dozens of worlds across the galaxy. 8 months ago, we were two completely different species who could not understand each other. She said to the mixed crowd. Humans seemed chaotic and unpredictable to the aliens. Aliens seemed rigid and controlling to humans. But we discovered that our differences were not weaknesses to be eliminated. They were strengths to be combined and celebrated. She gestured to the diverse crowd of humans and aliens who had gathered to witness this historic moment. Human creativity combined with alien logic has produced technologies we never could have imagined working alone. Alien organization combined with human adaptability has created solutions to problems that seemed completely impossible. We are not the same species we were when this adventure started, and that transformation is exactly what makes us all stronger. The celebration that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. Humans taught aliens how to dance and play games, while aliens shared their music, art forms, and philosophical traditions. Food vendors sold everything from traditional pizza to exotic delicacies from distant worlds. Children from multiple species played together, creating new games that required no common language beyond joy and laughter. Lisa, now head of the Integrated Technology Development Division, demonstrated her latest creation. It was a tool that combined human engineering with advanced technology from 7 different alien species. It was ugly, completely impractical by traditional standards, and held together with the galactic equivalent of duct tape and determination. It was also incredibly effective and had already been copied by engineers across the entire alliance. This is what we do best, she explained to a group of visiting ambassadors from newly contacted worlds. We take things that absolutely do not belong together and make them work anyway. Sometimes the very best solutions come from combining ideas that should not fit according to conventional wisdom. As the day turned into evening, Kevin, now head of the Galactic Communication Network, made an announcement that surprised absolutely no one. We've received another message from the far edge of known space, he said with a grin. It's from something called the Iron Dominion. They're offering us the same choice we've heard before. Surrender to their absolute rule or be completely destroyed. The crowd fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Another invasion threat, just when they had built something truly beautiful and lasting. Then President Harris started to laugh out loud. Same basic choice we got 8 months ago? Pretty much word for word, Kevin confirmed. What did you tell them in response? Kevin's grin grew wider. I sent them our new standard diplomatic response to invasion threats. The message appeared on screens throughout the park. It was simple, direct, and absolutely human in its approach. Dear Iron Dominion, welcome to our corner of the galaxy. We're always excited to meet new intelligent species. If you come in peace and friendship, we'll show you wonders and possibilities you never imagined existed. If you come planning war and conquest, well, we suggest you ask the former Central Command Empire how that approach worked out for them. Either way, you're definitely in for the most interesting experience of your existence. Signed with hope and friendship, the Free Worlds Alliance. P.S. Do you folks happen to like pizza? We're pretty sure you'll love pizza. The crowd erupted in laughter, cheers, and applause. They had faced the unknown before and turned bitter enemies into close friends and partners. They were confident they could do it again, as many times as necessary. Supreme Emperor Krigthal stood beside President Harris, watching the joyful celebration with wonder and gratitude. 8 months ago, he had ruled a vast empire built entirely on fear, control, and military conquest. Now he was part of something infinitely better. A true community built on free choice, mutual respect, and voluntary cooperation. The Iron Dominion will not be expecting this type of response, he observed with satisfaction. No, Harris agreed cheerfully. They'll probably expect us to be terrified, or to try to negotiate from weakness, or to prepare for a desperate last stand. And instead, Harris smiled as he watched humans and aliens dancing together under the brilliant stars. Instead, we'll do exactly what we always do. We'll be ourselves. Chaotic, creative, impossible to predict, and absolutely